That's we can wear T-shirts, we can put stickers, we can do activism like this. We have voices. We have all the utilities and all the things that we need to stand up and speak up for animals that don't have a voice and those that don't have a voice. So it's really a beautiful thing. Um, and you get to come out here and enjoy the nice weather if you're doing activism like this and just hang out, talk to people. What's going on, guys?
Hi.
Oh, you want to try? Did you see my sign?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Are you okay being on my YouTube live? You don't have to be. You can
Yeah,
be right
yeah,
there.
that's fine.
Okay, so I got to go like this then. All right, cool. Well, welcome, everybody. You guys are awesome for stopping by. So what's the event, by the way? There must be an event.
Oh, we just work at the State House.
Oh, heard. Okay, gotcha. I was there last week. So my first question is, what is veganism to you guys? What's the definition of veganism? What do you guys think?
Not eating any animal products that come from animals or derive out of them.
Perfectly put, very articulate. And that's definitely like the surface definition, right? But we go a little deeper when we amplify on the really exact definition, which is essentially it's an ethos. And it's an ethos where we posture saying, no, I will not support exploitation. No, I will not support violence, oppression, you name it, all those negatively correlated things with that mechanism of action, which is our dollar. So that's the real definition. The second question is, are you guys against animal abuse?
Yes.
Right? Reflexively. Do you have any animals, any pets? Who's got pets? I do too. Cat guy. I'm a cat guy, not a dog dude. And I have no problem saying that. So the third question is, how can we collectively be against something if we are voting for it 3 times a day? That's a tough question, and that's where I put you on the spot. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it is kind of a tough question because then we have to, I don't know, it's kind of changed how people look at animals and their level of conscience, especially after the scientific revolution where people are like less religious and they try and see things, I feel like in a different way and like how animals experience pain and things like that.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's kind of like something that we're becoming more aware of, but we're still kind of, there's these blinders on that disconnect us from food, and they're on by design, and they're not on by any kind of benevolent means. They're put on by certain control narratives that are 1% of the 1% that rely on the kind of siphoning of money off of that bottom 99%. So the real crux of this kind of thought experiment is just putting sentience on the table and making people aware of sentience. Have you guys heard that term before? Okay, it's like sentience is an emerging property of a nervous system in a brain, right? We know that animals have these things, so they have subjective experiences of this world. Like they can experience that beautiful blue sky, the wind in our face, the water. They have families, they have certain preferences. And the fact of the matter is, in 2025, nutritionally, we don't need anything from them. Like, there's nothing nutritionally you need. I've been vegan 12 years, my daughter since birth, my family. There's just narratives that propagate this kind of fear-mongering, telling us otherwise. So upon that stuff being said, well, first of all, anybody else have a thought on that?
Well, I have a question. So are you against specifically the abuse of animals, at least eating them, or just purely eating animals
Yes.
in general?
So we would contest that abuse is absolutely inherent to animal agriculture. There is no bifurcating it. There is no separating it. Because when something is an object, the whole tender loving care goes right out the window. So an object is to be monetized, is to be exacted, is to be used for others' benefits and their own benefits. So once that becomes a thing, which is what's happening with commodities, animals, you can't separate the violence, the cruelty from the killing. It's completely one.
If, let's say, a cow were to live free and happy, like a natural life, his whole life, and at the end of their life, a hunter came along, killed them, would you eat it, or would you still be against that?
Definitely not, because in that case, I would tilt to the animal outlook. So we tilt to the sentient being, the helpless animal, once again, that has no, agency. He's a patient of our morals. We are the moral agents, and he doesn't want that to happen, I would contest. And he has a time horizon left where he has more time to experience this beauty and the air and the everything that we have. So the hunter, I would say, is stealing somebody's time horizon for the sake of, feeding their family where they don't need to use the animal to feed their family, and you can just get readily available vegan options. That's what I would say to that. What would be the biggest thing stopping you guys from considering going vegan?
basically.
Amazing.
I don't eat eggs either.
Amazing.
The
Okay.
only thing I pretty much eat is like cheese and
Cheese. Okay.
milk, but I don't eat milk by itself, but in things.
Yeah.
If I do have milk like by itself,
Sorry.
it's either oat milk or almond milk.
Yeah.
But
Why'd you go vegetarian, or why are you vegetarian?
it honestly was something that I did when I was little. I grew up like kind of in a house in the woods, so I was always outside. Didn't really like. I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't like the idea of like. I thought animals were my friends. I didn't.
Yeah,
want, like,
yeah,
my
yeah.
friends.
So kind of like a palpable knowing.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
That's just my whole life. I haven't.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. That's
Yeah.
amazing, and that's probably all of your hearts are the same way, right? And the one thing I would say about vegetarianism is just one thing. Well, it's a big thing. The dairy industry is also abhorrent. Like what they do to cows, like industry, they have these terms for the circular things they put cows in. They call them, and this is industry language. This is industry language. The farmers will call them rape racks. So they literally put them in there, and then they put their hand in the cervix, hold down, or put their hand in the anus, hold down the cervix, and then inject the bull semen, and then forcibly impregnate the animal. And that's all against its will. And that happens not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times before they're hung upside down, throat cut ear to ear, and then they're on somebody's plate. And for cheap meat, they don't warrant premium meat because their whole meat has been abused its whole life. So that effectively is something we're still paying for when we shore up systems of dairy with that dollar. So I would encourage your vegan heart to like ponder that, and all your vegan hearts. Because if you're all against animal abuse, you're already vegan. It's just a matter of pairing the void of action and values. That's it. That's literally it. And you work at the State House? That's so cool because you could, like, doing that and making that choice, that gives you such credence into whatever mission that you're on, because you're already somebody. The information and whatever you're trying to do in your cause comes from a place of truth and ethos. And I think that's something to consider too. And you can be better guardians, protectors, because that's kind of an MO to, maybe what you're doing. I don't know.
What would you say to people like one of the main reasons I haven't gone vegan is because a lot of doctors don't recommend it, say it's unhealthy. I already have a really hard time getting protein in.
Yeah.
Like when I was little, I used to have to drink like so many protein supplements. Like
Yeah.
my vitamins aren't good. It's
Yeah.
hard to you feel weak all the time and tired,
Okay.
lethargic.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what would
Okay.
you say to people? And it is expensive
Great.
going alternative meat and
Yep. Great points.
honest soy products aren't that much better for you. It's still
Yeah.
very processed. What would you say to people who
Great points.
economically and health wise
Here-
would choose to do that?
This is a great question, and I'm glad that you asked it. So, and thank you for asking it. So, right now, as far as the amount of nutrition information that doctors get, it's almost nothing. An MD, who, say, your general practitioner, does not know more about nutrition than well-read people that study nutrition. They just don't. And the information they get is all sponsored and given to them to understand and adopt for the sake of certain interests that eclipse all things. Like my own doctor, and I am constantly educating him, or I was until he retired, but I was constantly educating him on things where he's like, oh, I didn't know that. He got scared when I told him I went vegan. And that's great. He has a compassionate heart. But then once I told him that, and I showed him evidence from other doctors, there's plenty of other doctors that are in the plant-based space that kind of are not tied to industry, that will tell you much more sound information and can articulate all your answers to all your questions. So I would say the nutrition thing, if you guys, before you go, I got cards that have Challenge 22 on it. It's a website where they hook you up with a free dietary, or the free nutritionist that can guide you to whatever questions you may have, or to answer whatever questions you may have. But I'm vegan 12 years. I don't look at anything. My daughter's vegan. She looks at nothing. We eat enough calories. We're good. You have B12. B12 comes from the soil. Does not come from an animal. It comes from the soil. We take a supplement for that. And if you're not vegan, you actually get it via a supplement, but it's from the cow getting the supplement. They get a shot. They get a shot now because you can't get it from the soil anymore. So we're both supplementing with B12. We're both. So that's how I would answer that. You don't have to worry about that, but I understand that you're concerned about it. But I can tell you that, even an orange has every single essential amino acid. You just got to eat enough food, even an orange. If you were to learn that you could get everything and be healthy, would you consider going full vegan?
I mean, possibly. It's also going into being a college student, I
Yeah.
can't really afford to be
Yeah.
eating off of organic.
I get it.
It's
I get it.
Like supplemental foods. It's not very.
And you don't need to
acceptable.
supplement. The supplement thing, don't worry about the supplement thing. I don't supplement. You don't need to supplement. You can have a protein shake, if you want, but everyone does that, You can have a plant-based protein shake. What I would say is that 10 to 20% premium, is it worth more than someone else's life? That's a tough question, I know. Is it worth more than kind of just going against your own values, that 10 to 20% premium? If, per se, you were to realize that non-vegan foods are cheaper than the vegan counterparts. That's a tough question to ponder, I know.
Yeah.
But I got to float it. That's the whole reason I'm here. I'm here for them, just speaking up for them. I got to float it, at least.
Well, what about the animals that die from plant agriculture, like
Great question.
millions of birds and field mice and things like that
I'm
die?
going to give you a great answer. Are you ready? Okay. So that's one that we get a lot, but I think it's more so seen as a way to kind of justify rather than an actual, I hate to say, I don't think it's very intelligent, and I'll tell you why. So first we have to start off with one thing. Veganism is not perfection, right? The actual definition, which was coined by Donald Watson in 1944, is doing your best as far as practicable and possible to not harm animals or exploit others. So that's the actual definition, right? Doing your best. You appeal to the nirvana, appeal to perfection. These things they're kind of fallacies, right? So the second thing I would posit with is this: 98% of the world is not vegan. Think about that for a second. We can transcend that to farmers. We can say 98% of farmers are not vegan. They're not. So as far as they're having evolved consciousness, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. They got the blinders on via the narratives. They're still on. And it's all about money, 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 money. Understandably so. That's capitalism, and that's what we abide in right now. So I have to ask a question. How would I possibly leapfrog the whole scenario and get right to the farmer and have him be more stewarding and compassionate to the animals when the people that actually shore up his systems are not convinced that animals are worth more than rocks or sticks? That's how I would posture back to you. Once we get to certain levels and we scale into a more vegan world, these kind of ideals of compassion and actions of compassion will proliferate, and we will be able to look after the farm better and protect the moles, protect the insects. But we're so disconnected from that, we have to just look at the bare minimum. The bare minimum we can do is just go vegan, baseline vegan, and then operate out of there. So that's what I would say to that. What do you think about that?
Touched on this a little bit. You were talking about the 1% siphoning more money from the bottom 99%.
Yes.
And
Okay.
talking about the specific narratives that industries may have for farmers and smaller farmer groups and things like that. Could you touch on that a little bit more, like some of the larger agendas that the industry has for the global population, and what are some policy alternatives that you would like to see, maybe not in 5 years, but at least 20, 30 years time, long-term implemented globally or at least regionally, that could probably help your cause?
What a well-percepted question. So yeah, when I was talking about the 1% of the 1%, there's basically 8,000 people that control everything. They're 1% of the 1%. And I'll call them the plutocrats. They're on another level. You might have heard some of their names. Some of them start with R's, right? And they're very, very elite. And they have this want to keep people to control. That's basically the biggest thing. And you get to control by getting money, then getting power, then you get to control. And they've achieved that. And there's only 8,000 of them. So the whole idea is control. And with that comes taking away all of our freedoms. Now, we think we're free. We think this is all freedom and this is great. But the thing is, we're really not, because we're following orders as far as the eating and consuming of animals for taste, convenience, and pleasure, which are all unnecessary. So those orders are by design architected to sustain that siphoning of money, to keep them wealthy, to keep them powerful, to keep them controlling. In animal agriculture is one of the biggest monetary engines that drives that dynamic, right? So they want us to remain basically caged. We think we're free, but we're really not, because we are still following these orders. We're getting heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. We're in these cages. And then the reason that's happening is because we're doing it to others as well, and it's boomeranging back to us. We're doing it to the animals. We're taking away their freedom. We're taking away their autonomy, their bodily autonomy, their families, and that's boomeranging back to us. And that is therefore boomeranging optimally back to them to sustain that kind of siphoning off of our 1%. So my whole idea in the next 5-10 year time horizon, and there's other people like me that come out here. I'm not just the only one. There will be more too, because we have this beautiful opportunity that I can have with you guys that you would never see on mainstream TV. You will never see this on mainstream TV, at least right now, because it's way too disruptive, way too disruptive. My idea is to kind of, our idea is to kind of tilt people's purview and have them back up and look at sentience and consider sentience and consider what the root of the problem really is, and the root is animal agriculture, and tilt their buying dynamics to therefore be in a better place to evolve, make rules, be guardians, be protectors moving forward into these next decades and scores. So that's how, I guess that's how I would answer that. I know that's a loaded subject. If you're interested in what I just said with the 8,000, look up a book called The World Peace Diet by Dr. Will Tuttle. In fact, would you guys take cards? I actually got to get back to my car because I think I'm going to be towed. I hope not. But if you want it, take a card, you know, and it's got my YouTube channel on it. It'll probably have this interview on it. It's just a beautiful thing. I appreciate you guys stopping by. There's a speech on the other side, which was the speech that turned me vegan 12 years ago. But the book is called The World Peace Diet. It's written by Dr. Will Tuttle, and he will answer your question much better than me. I was not as clear as he would be if you were to look up his content, his YouTube channel, his book, The World Peace Diet. It all comes down to compassion and consideration. So, yeah. Thanks for stopping by and having the courage to stop by, guys. You guys are awesome. I'm gonna pack up because I don't want to get a huge ticket. You know, you guys have a great rest of your day.